A future king who almost never says "I want," yet leaves fingerprints everywhere he goes. Security zones that redraw public space. A rare plea about a war that raised eyebrows across Whitehall. And a hush-hush settlement that hints at how fiercely he guards one thing above all: control over the story. Tonight, we're going inside the whisper network around William, Prince of Wales. How quiet requests, private red lines, and strategic asks shape the monarchy you see, and the one he's building. Here's the frame. William doesn't issue decrees, he engineers conditions. The difference matters. Decrees invite drama, conditions drive outcomes. We'll unpack 5 arenas where those conditions are set. Early whispers that foreshadowed a harder edge on media and access. The Cambridge Charter, a modernization playbook, streamlined, targeted, measurable. Behind closed doors, family, succession, and the protection of 3 children who didn't choose the spotlight. The political gambit, soft power, rare public principles, and the line he dares to walk. The king in waiting, what the next reign may actually feel like if these patterns harden into policy. Stay sharp. The drama here hides in the fine print, not the headlines. The Whisper Network. Early demands. Start with the thing William almost never jokes about: privacy. Long before he became Prince of Wales, there were quiet confrontations with papers, photo agencies, and anyone who blurred the family's off-duty line. The message, said in a dozen subtle ways, became unmistakable. School gates are not a media zone, family time isn't a photo call, and rota access is a privilege, not a right. The tell? Even when the public part looks breezy, walkabout, selfies, cheerful asides, the backstage rules are crisp. Engagements are shorter, tighter, more purposeful. No is used more often, earlier, and with less apology. And in 2020, a confidential settlement with a major tabloid group confirmed the steel beneath the surface. William will litigate if necessary, and he will settle if it achieves what he needs most: closure, boundaries, and deterrence. Did you know? When unlawful press tactics from the 1990s and 2000s finally reached the courts in recent years, the story wasn't just about old hacking, it was about new leverage. The takeaway for editors was simple: the air is not bluffing, another whisper with impact. Access recalibration. William became a connoisseur of controlled moments that travel further than chaos. Documentary, grade visuals, high-production climate content, tightly curated charity films. He doesn't chase volume, he orchestrates amplification. Think fewer engagements, more signal. Less pageantry, more purpose shots. It looks modern because it is. Fewer raw feeds, more finished assets. 2. The Cambridge Charter, modernizing the monarchy. Call it a charter, call it an operating system. Either way, William's modernization push rests on 5 pillars. Pillar 1, impact over itinerary. A smaller, denser schedule that privileges outcomes. Climate tech convenings. Conservation task forces with enforcement data. A homelessness initiative designed like a 5-year policy pilot, not a ribbon cutting. These aren't just causes, they're frameworks. The point isn't to raise awareness, it's to move a metric. Pillar 2, measurable wins. Conservation. He backs networks that can count arrests, seizures, staff trained, routes disrupted. Homelessness. He frames it around rare, brief, unrepeated. Language borrowed from best practice prevention models. This is the language of KPIS, not cuteness. Charming photo ops are welcome, they're just not the product. Pillar 3, strategic soft power. Meetings where the handshakes matter. UN leadership in New York for Climate Week. Heads of state and US presidents when the agenda is climate or innovation. The signal is quiet but potent. The Prince of Wales uses convening power to keep Britain in the room, even when British politics are noisy. It's diplomacy without the press conference. Pillar 4, a lighter public footprint, heavier prep. He favors events that look effortless but are pre-engineered. Fewer speeches, more stakeholder roundtables. Fewer motorcades, more walking shots that say, approachable. It's modern optics with a spreadsheet behind it. Pillar 5, the slimline debate. Here's a tension. William has been read as pro-streamlining, fewer senior royals front stage, more targeted work, less sprawl. But streamlining creates scarcity, and scarcity increases price. Fewer faces means every misstep is magnified. Internally, that invites resistance from those who know the gridload of ceremonies the UK expects every year. He hears that argument. He just prefers institutions that run like tight teams, not wandering troops. Surprise, the most modern lever William is pulling might be editing. Editing the calendar, the language, the expectations. Not tearing up tradition, trimming it until it runs hot. Third, behind closed doors, family and succession. Now the most delicate arena, family. 3 children, each with a title that could swallow a childhood. William's private demands here aren't flashy, they're fences. Fence 1, education and normalcy. He chooses schools built for privacy, commutes that avoid paparazzi choke points, and homes with green buffers. If a move triggers a new security perimeter, he takes the heat and makes the trade. Public access loses a parking lot. 3 kids gain margin. The principle is ruthless only if you ignore the math of risk. Fence 2, workload and rank. William's view of succession is crisp. The heir works as heir. Siblings are not drafted forever into full-time royal life against their will. That doesn't mean cousins vanish. It means adulthood won't automatically equal working royal. The goal is to spare the next generation from a lifetime sentence to balcony duty. Irony, limiting the roster makes the crown look more exclusive. Exactly the critique reformers level. But to William, that's a policing problem the palace can solve. A childhood lost is gone for good. Fence 3, the Harry problem. Here's what's true and verifiable. The relationship is strained. William shows no appetite for public theatrics, masquerading as reconciliation. His red line is trust. No leaks, no ambushes, no simultaneous media plays. Private apologies must be private, or they are not apologies. That position can look cold until you measure it against his core belief. Lasting peace is built in rooms without microphones. Translation, he will absorb weeks of bad headlines before he risks another breach. Did you know William has internalized a single lesson from 1,000 tabloid battles? If you perform forgiveness for cameras, you incentivize betrayal. If you practice it off stage, you might buy silence. 4, the political gambit. Royal influence without breaking the rules. Constitutional monarchies run on mystery and restraint, which is why one statement in early 2024 made insiders sit forward. William called plainly for an end to the fighting in a live conflict and for humanitarian aid to get in and hostages to get out. No policy prescriptions, no finger-pointing. But for a senior royal, even that level of moral clarity was unusual enough to trigger headlines. Why does this matter? Because it shows his doctrine for public principle. Choose issues tethered to his brief: humanitarian suffering, climate, veterans, and speak with verbs, not villains. End the fighting. Get aid in. Release hostages. You can debate whether that's political, but you can't miss the cadence. Verbs only. On the quiet end of the spectrum, there's the soft power matrix. Climate summits, UN weeks, meetings with presidents and secretaries general. These are not random cameos, they're reputation trades. He lends his brand to a cause. The cause lends him seriousness. The British government, meanwhile, benefits from a parallel channel that sells British competence without a speech from a minister. That's royal diplomacy 2.0. Credible, photogenic, and blessedly apolitical on the surface. The boundary question is real. Royals don't set policy, they set moods. William's gamble is that modern audiences want their future king to be useful, not just symbolic. If he stays on humanitarian verbs and avoids parliamentary nouns, he believes he can hold the line. V, the privacy doctrine, the settlement, the suits, the steal. Rewind to the phone intrusion era. Years of unlawful tactics left scars on both brothers. When the legal tide finally turned, William's approach was clinical. secure redress, change behavior, move on. The confidential settlement in 2020 wasn't a drama, it was a lever. It signaled a principle his office practices daily. If you cross the line, we won't just complain, we'll litigate, settle, and set precedent. That same doctrine animates press management now. Tight briefings, narrow corrals, photos on palace terms. For old-school royal reporters, this feels like exile. For William's comms team, it's best practice. Cue the push-pull, accusations of over-control on one side, data-driven reputation management on the other. Both can be true. Shock moment you may have missed: when a British publisher made unprecedented apologies in open court for unlawful intrusions, it rewrote the risk landscape. Editors who once saw royals as fair game now scan for tripwires. William wants it exactly that way. 6. The security perimeter, a new kind of demand. Security is where William's quiet requests become visible. When a move to a new family home triggers exclusion zones, closed car parks, fresh fencing, tempers flare. Locals object. Walkers lose routes. Headlines cry, "No go." But inside the machine, the discussion is arithmetic. Threat profiles, public maps, response times. William's demand isn't for privilege, it's for time. The extra minutes a buffer gives a protection team to move 3 children out of harm's way. Where critics see a land grab, protection officers see a safety margin. Does it cost public goodwill? Yes. Does he spend it anyway? When the calculation says children first, yes, and he'll eat the PR for it. There's a second-order effect here. By making security less porous around one home base, William actually increases public encounters elsewhere. City visits, school events, and walkabouts stay lively because the home perimeter absorbs the risk. It's a swap, privacy at home to enable visibility in public. Not everyone will agree with the calculus. Everyone should understand it. 7. The workload riddle, streamlined or stretched? A streamlined monarchy tests one question: can fewer people do more, better? William's answer is to professionalize the glamour. That means fewer ribbon cuttings, more long horizon projects. Homewards isn't a day, it's a 5-year grind. Fewer sprawling tours, more mission trips. Think climate summits, veterans events, memorials with global resonance. Fewer speeches, sharper scripts. If he's talking, it's because a phrase has a job to do. The risk? Coverage gaps. Britain loves a full balcony. Charities love a royal calendar that never sleeps. When the roster tightens, the backlog grows. Internally, you hear the counter-argument: tradition is a network. Cut too much, and you cut muscle. William's move is to grow partners around the royals, corporates, cities, NGOs, so that when a royal steps back, an alliance steps in. It's not abdication, it's orchestration. Here's a quiet aha. In a media ecology that eats repetition, William's scarcity is a feature. Less exposure preserves mystique. Mystique preserves deference. And deference, like it or not, is part of how constitutional monarchy holds. 8. The king in waiting, the plan that isn't a plan. So what happens when William becomes king? Expect evolution by accretion, not revolution by decree. Calendar, fewer, because we always do events, more events with measurable outcomes. Comms, fewer sprays, more polished packages, tighter control of off-duty imagery. Family roles, a core of working royals with clear remits. Flexibility for others to opt in temporarily, not for life. Soft power, aggressive climate convening, veterans, mental health, early years via partnerships. Commonwealth engagement redesigned to feel like mutual projects, not colonial echoes. Security and privacy, sustained buffers around children well into their teens. Tougher red lines with press, no fence sitting if boundaries are crossed. And one more thing, verbs over villains. Expect value statements on dignity, service, compassion, without straying into policy fights. The Gaza moment previewed this register. He'll use it sparingly. When he does, it will trend globally, because it will be rare. 9. The unseen side demands without the word. Demand. Here's the paradox. William's demands seldom look like demands. They appear as, "We'll handle this in-house. The schedule won't allow." That's not a line this year. Security advises against. Behind each phrase sits a preference, a red line, a long memory. And yet, there's a human under the policy. A son who watched a mother die chased by cameras. A father determined that 3 children will not become content. A firstborn raised for duty who still speaks in verbs, not villains, when the world is on fire. If you strip away the gossip, the unseen side is simply this: a future king designing a monarchy that doesn't break the people inside it. So when the next headline screams about a no-go zone, a rare statement, or a frosty silence, ask the deeper question: which condition was he engineering? Was it safety, impact, trust? That's where the real story lives, and where the next reign is already being written.